I cannot begin to tell you how many people contact me every day thanking me for sharing the story about my childhood trauma. So many of you have been made to feel ashamed and even guilty about things that happened to you. You've been carrying the pain of family dysfunction on your own. But listen, one of my goals for this podcast is I want to create a safe space where you can explore the dark cracks and the crevices of your life without fear of being called wrong or crazy. And so today I am honored because I have a super special guest who is joining me, and she's going to help us zoom out a bit and see how broken families are always the result of generational trauma. And what we're going to do is we're going to use our own family as a case study. So let's talk about it. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Nona Jones Pod Show. Today, I get to sit down with the woman who is the queen of my heart, y'all. She is my aunt, but she is more like my mother than my aunt. And her government name is Gwendolyn Marie Anderson. But I know her, and everybody who knows her as Aunt Brenda. So welcome to the show, Auntie.
Well, thank you for having me.
How do you feel about even being a part of this? I know this is not something you normally do. So how do you feel?
I'm excited. I'm excited because anytime I can get a chance to help anyone get through their difficulties or situations in life, I feel good about it. I feel good about it. So if this helps, let it roll.
Well, first of all, you look fabulous, as always. Listen, y'all, that's where I get it from. I get it from my auntie, okay? There's so many directions that this conversation could take, but I'm going to try to keep it as focused as possible for the time that we have. And I actually want to start by going back. I want to go back to when you came back into my life, because you've been in my life since before I was born and at the beginning. But for those who maybe don't know, my mom has a really tenuous relationship with her siblings. And I'm sure you'll share, but there's 12 siblings. So I didn't really grow up around family. Like I really didn't. Right. So I didn't have close relationships with my aunts and my cousins and my uncles. And but you moved from New Jersey to Jacksonville, Florida. But I don't think we really connected until maybe 2008. I was trying to think of the year. I feel like it might have been 2008. It was around the time that I moved into, I think it was my second house. We had just built the house. And I think you came, we were like doing like a housewarming, and I think you came for that. But before then, I remember you were trying to get me to have a relationship with my mom. Like you would even kind of plant seeds, like you really should reach out. And because you were trying to do the same, like you were trying to build relationships too. So I just wanted to start by asking, what do you remember about that time? Like when you kind of came back into my life, what do you remember about that?
I thought it was a duty. I thought I was supposed to be there because your father and I were so close in terms of friendship and being sisterhood, brotherhood, that I just felt like it was necessary for me to be there. I'll go back as far as when you were about to have TJ. That's how far back it goes. When that rough time took place, and I knew that someone in your side of the family should be there, because your mom wasn't. So knowing how your father was to my son, I felt like there's no way that I could leave you out there by yourself.
You know what I would love if you could, I think you are uniquely qualified. I've talked a lot about my mom because that's the one relationship I know. Could you tell people about my dad?
Oh, your dad was a true provider. He made sure that whatever was necessary in that house, it was done. And if he had to work 2 or 3 jobs to make it happen, then he would. He loved your mom unconditionally. And, you know, I loved him for loving your mom and the way he loved your mom. You know, no matter what and in spite of, he was a great guy. He was a great guy. And he was the one who actually helped me for the first couple of years of my son's life to have that man around, that man figure. You know, my brother-in-law took him underneath the wing and would take him to football game, basketball game. This is before you was even born.
Yeah.
But this is the type of guy he was. He wanted a child so bad that whatever child came around, it was like,
He just took
him. But I had the privilege of staying at your mom and dad's house for a short while. And as a result, he took care of Hakeem. Whenever I wanted to go out, he wasn't doing anything, leave him here. I got him. And he was good. He was really good. Actually, he helped me to pass my state exam for my boiler license because he was so into boilers, and he had his Blue Seal license, I think. But laying in the hospital bed, and my going up there to visit him, and my telling him, "Oh, Wayne, I'm gotta pass this test," and da 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 da, you know. And he says, "Don't worry about it, you'll get it." You know, he's so confident like you, so confident. You know, everything is you could do it, you could do it, you could do it. And he helped me, and I passed it. You know, but yeah, he was a great guy.
How did he react when my mom got pregnant and he?
Oh, he was excited. Are you kidding me? Flowers. You don't have to do anything. Just sit still. You know, he cooked, he cleaned, he whatever he had to do to make this happen. He was so excited that he was about to have a child. And we laughed about it because I said, when she's born, I mean, not that I knew what they were going to have, but I just put it on a she. You know, I said, she's going to have the same size shoe. Her and I going to wear the same size shoes. And he looked down at my feet and he says, "Oh, no." That's his little joke between him and I. "Oh, no." And now I'm laughing because I'm saying, same size shoes.
That's right. Oh, wow. No, I appreciate you for sharing that because again, I think people hear me talk so much about the situation with my mom. But what I do know about my dad is he wanted me. Like he wanted me. And I've even shared that one of the pains in my life has been that I truly know that if my dad had lived, the things that I experienced would not have happened. Like I know he would not have allowed it.
No. And you probably wouldn't have moved to Florida.
He's like, no, that's not happening.
That's not happening. Yeah.
So first question, what's your understanding of how your mom and dad met?
Believe it or not, they never talked about it.
Really?
I really, really don't know. I just know before the children, they used to go out a lot and they used to do things together. But other than that, there was very little conversation about how they met and what they used to do. The oldest of the siblings would know a lot of that. But by the time I came, being number 7 out of the 12, there was very little conversation about how they met.
Well, that's a perfect segue because I wanted to talk about what was your experience like growing up in that house? Because you were number 7. So there were 6 kids before you. And then there was 8, 9, 10, 11, 5 after you.
Right.
What was that like?
It was a combination between the house that Jack built and the old lady
The shoe?
And my mother was far from being old because she was 31 when she had me.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. She
So grandma
31.
was
Yeah.
having babies early because she had, I heard she had 15 pregnancies.
Yes,
Is that right?
15, 3 passed before she had really started having. Then she had to have surgery too before she was able to keep
Really?
children. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what? Okay, so he said it was like the house that Jack built, and the old lady had the shoe. Explain more. Like what? So what did what
Well,
did that mean?
for the first from the time I was born up until I would say 14, the houses were so small that we used to sleep like 3 or 4 in a bed. Yeah, it was like that. And so when we finally was able to get this house that had more rooms than we had furniture, you know, that's when the house became larger. We were able to sleep maybe 2 in a room. Some even had their own because the older ones were starting to move out.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they were all home. And it was difficult. You know, a lot of times there was no food. And that's the reason where we get to this shoe.
Yeah.
You know, if we had something to eat in the house, we were blessed.
Wow.
Yeah. It wasn't like every day, you know, we had breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Yeah.
It wasn't set up like that. And because there was nieces and nephews that came later on that lived with us, that's more mouths to feed. So yeah, it was strange. It was difficult.
So it sounds like money was an issue.
Money was a big issue because my father was I want to say, because he was never diagnosed professionally, but looking at the habit that he had, he was, I would say, an alcoholic in denial, but a functional one because he would go to work every day. But the flip side of that is that he would take his check to the nearest bar or tavern and they would gamble.
Wow.
So he would lose all his money. So the only one that we had to rely upon was my mom, you know, and she worked 2 or 3 jobs. So the oldest ones became the babysitters. And that's how that went.
So growing up, what did you think about your dad? Like seeing what you saw, like what did you think about him?
I didn't like him. Matter of fact, I hate him because that alcoholism caused a lot of abusiveness within the house. You know, I mean, it was nothing for him to come home and argue and fuss and fight, and, you know, and no matter how well the house may have been kept, no matter what was on the stove, which he did not provide, there was something there for him. My mother always made sure that there was something made for him, but it wasn't pleasant. My relationship with him was never pleasant. Matter of fact, I tried to stay away from him as much as possible because you can look at him and he would automatically flip out, you know, because he'll think that, you know, there was this one particular incident I remember where there was food in the fridge. My mother told me to fix a plate for my father. And I did, but I put it in the oven. Well, when he came in, he didn't see it. So he didn't think there was anything to eat. So when he started raising Cain about not having any food in the house, as if he provided, I went in the oven, I pulled it out, and I said, "No, Dad, here's some food here." And he took the plate and slapped it out of my hand, you know, and I just looked at the plate, it crashed on the floor. And I looked up at him and he said, "Yeah." He said, "What you giving me this look like? You can fight me or something? You want to fight me?" And he pulled out a knife and he put it to my throat and he told me that if I moved, he would kill me. And so as he was saying that, I saw a flashlight coming up the stairs. Well, somebody had called the police and it was the police coming through the back door. And then my father threw the knife down and the police took him out of the house. And first they told me it was snowing outside. And the police officer told me to ask me if I would go and get him a jacket or a coat. And knowing what he had just done to me,
Get your father a jacket?
yeah, get my father a jacket. And knowing what he had just tried to do to me, and
Oh,
had
let
it
me
not
get him
been
a
for the
glass of
police,
ice water.
I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, he has his coat on. And mind you, he only had a t-shirt on, and it was snowing outside. But I didn't, at that point, that was pretty much I want to say the straw that broke the camel's back with him, because I just couldn't, I just couldn't be. And then there was another incident where I was in church. It was an Easter Sunday. I was in church, and a friend of mine came to the church and told me the police was at my house. So here I am. I ran out of my shoes to the house, and saw blood all over the kitchen. And then someone said, your mom went to the hospital. So I ran to the hospital. And they said that she had went to the police station. I ran to the police station. But by the time I got there, now mind you, I'm only 12 at this point.
Yeah.
By the time I got there, my mother had left and came home, and she had gotten stitches across her eye and her hand. And she tried to say, or they tried to say, that she cut herself while she was peeling some potatoes. And I was like, no, that's not what happened. But that was a lot of incidents like that in the house.
Well, that is heavy. Um,
Yeah.
how did your siblings respond? And were they also subjected to his wrath? Like how?
Oh, yeah. We were all afraid of him. We were all afraid. We walked around the house on eggshells because we didn't want to make too much noise, because he would have said something. It wasn't like we had the house, the freedom to do what other children was able to do. We were afraid of all of us, So no, it wasn't a pleasant atmosphere at all to stay in that house or stay in any one of the houses that we had moved to, because we was like, 1 minute we're here, next minute we're there, next minute. I think by the time I was 10, we had moved twice. Twice. By the time I turned 14, we had another move. And then there was another move. And then there was another move. But yeah, we just moved around.
So while all of this is happening, what are you thinking about your mom?
I'm so bad for her, because as much as I tried to beg her not to take him back, her thoughts, and at an early age too. I mean, because like I said, I was 31. I think she had her last child at 41, because we're stair-step.
Yeah.
Her thought was, who would want her with 12 children and 7 of them being girls? She didn't want to bring another man in the house with 7 girls.
Yeah.
So she just tried. I guess in my mind, she was thinking that he would change, so she stayed in there for that. She stayed in there for the children. She stayed in there hoping that one day they would own their own home and have their children under one roof. But that never happened. That never happened.
So I want you to tell, because I think part of what intersects with our story and your father, if you can tell the story of what happened with our mom and your dad. I remember you telling me about it.
Well, they were very close. They were very close. And I didn't understand why they were that close. I mean, I don't know whether it's because both of them had some, I want to say, mental challenges. Him with his alcoholism and his gambling addiction. Her with her, I don't know, the teacher said that she was a problem child. They diagnosed her. It wasn't this bipolar like it is today. They didn't have a name for the problem children. They just called it a problem child.
Mm.
And so he took her pretty much under his wing. And that became his favorite.
Almost like he had sympathy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yes and no. I mean, he liked the fight in her. You know, he did. I mean, there was
Got
something
it.
about that fight
Yeah.
that he had in her, that he saw in her, that he was attracted to.
Mhm.
But I remember her being expelled from the the school district, and her having to go because she threw a chair at the teacher,
Mm.
and she got expelled. And so my mom had to send her to a private school,
Mhm.
and it was a perfect private school. I mean, it was one of the best, one of the best. And so when she came home during the holiday, she talked my father into not going back.
Mm.
She said that they picked on her, that they called her names and things of that nature. So I'm thinking, because of the way my father lived growing up
Mhm.
and how they picked on him more or less,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
that
He saw himself in her.
he saw himself in her. And so he told my mom she didn't have to go back. She don't have to go back. So she never went back to school, period.
Well,
See, and that left her opening for her not to go back to school.
mhm.
There was nothing that my mom could do without causing more confusion in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you think, just looking back on that whole situation, how do you think that shaped you into who you are?
Well, first, I wanted to get out of that house so fast. I was like, oh, if I could just get out of this house, if I could just move out of this house, da 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 da. I was all prepared, thinking I can do it, and this, but I was scared of life. I was scared of life outside of even. I mean, I had built myself some protection
Yeah.
within the house, but I was afraid to go outside that boundary, that area,
Mm.
because of the responsibility, because of my not knowing whether I can or not.
Yeah.
So I started doing some things that wasn't what I would call the typical young girl to do, looking for love in all the wrong people, places, and things.
Sure.
You know, and I wind up getting pregnant as a result of it.
Mm.
And that I thought was, oh wow, we're gonna get married, you know, and you know, this is my thoughts.
Yeah.
These are my thoughts. So, you know, we're gonna get married, and when I tell him, he's gonna be happy, and da da da. Well, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. I could have been on the Murray Show.
Wow.
I could have been on the Murray Show. You know, I mean, that's
Yeah.
how that went.
Yeah.
And so it threw me for a loop. But my mom, on the other hand, looked at me as being so responsible that she didn't even say anything. I mean, she went with me for the testing, to get the testing rate of my pregnancy. And I'm looking at her, and I'm seeing there's nothing. There's no look, you know, that would give me a clue whether she was angry at me,
Yeah.
whether she was disappointed at me. There was nothing. All she did was listen to what the doctor had to say. And we walked home. Now, walking home, we're talking every bit of 3.5, maybe 4 miles
Wow.
from the hospital to my house. And she didn't say anything. So I'm saying, wow, yeah. She's not saying anything. I mean, I was expecting her to say, you know, who,
Yeah.
what,
Yeah. Ask questions.
when, you know, why. But I was expecting her to say all of that or ask all of that. But she never said a word. So now I'm like, what is she thinking? And I'm excited because this is my way out. This is
Right.
what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, hey, this
I'm
is
about to get married.
not that I did it to get pregnant.
Yeah.
I didn't think that. I didn't even know anything about that,
Yeah.
or how that works, you know, at that age. Because I was very naive when it came down to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is what I'm thinking. But his plan was different, totally different than mine. He would prefer to say that he wasn't the father and take that back door. And but he came back around, and we just never was able to get it together, to stay together for the child's sake. So I wound up being the single mom. But I had to quit school. I didn't quit school because of my pregnancy, because I had quit school prior to. I thought if I can get me a job, and work, I could find me a place and just move. But that didn't happen. So I stayed there. I stayed there about a year after I had Hakeem, and that's when I went and stayed with your mom and dad. And they helped me. At least your dad, because your mom, she was questioning. It was kind of suspect, in terms of wanting any children. But she did say, if your father let me, that I could stay. And see, not wanting my son to see all this arguing, this fussing and fighting, I wanted a way out for him. I didn't want him to go through the same thing I went through. So when he said yes, I was like, so excited. But that was short-lived too, because after your mom and father couldn't seem to get eye to eye, couldn't see eye to eye, it was, you get out and take your baby with you. That's what your mom said to me. So we wound up leaving. But no, it wasn't an easy thing. My mom wanted me to stay in school, but I'm like, Mom, how can I stay here? And try to even think about school when I come home, all I'm hearing is arguing and fussing and fighting. How can I not just me, but everybody. I mean, we all had our ups and downs in terms of their education, but everybody wanted to leave school and do something, to get out. Yeah. But everything that we did wasn't for our benefit. It turned out to be harder than what we thought.
Well, there's a thread I want to pull on in a word that you said, where you said your mom almost didn't have any response because you were so responsible. Right. I think people respond to trauma in different ways. Some people, they explode. They explode. They do all types of crazy stuff. They're just all over the place. Other people can implode, and they end up in addictions and all types of self-harm and things like that. But then sometimes people become the responsible one. Like they just become the one who makes sure everything is taken care of. Why do you think you became responsible as a child? Like that's the thing. It's not like you were an adult and you were on your own. It's like you became the responsible one as a child.
Well, because my mom, at one point, I became the oldest. Like I said earlier,
People are moving out.
People were moving out. So the older one took care of the younger ones and took everyone that's in the house. And while everyone was going to work and doing different things, I became the older one. So I had to wind up taking care of my younger sisters and brothers and nieces and nephews. You see, so that's how she looked at me as being responsible. And every time she would need me at the house, the house was clean, the kids were fed, there wasn't really any problem. But I remember this one time, go back to your mom. My mother told your mom and I to watch the children while everybody went to work. And so your mom said, yeah, right. So I kind of looked at her.
How old were y'all about this time?
Trying to think, did I have Hakeem then? I don't think I had Hakeem then. So I'm looking at maybe 16, 17. I was 16, 17. Your mom, like I said, when we was there,
14.
Yeah, somewhere in that area. Yeah. So, yeah, because it was during the time that she was actually dating your dad.
Oh, yeah, they met when she was 13.
Yeah, she was dating your dad then. When she told me that she wanted me and my sister to watch, or your mom to watch the children, she said that until they came home from work. So I said, okay. And my thoughts scared. So I said, okay. That's what I have to do. This is what I have to do. So when everyone left, I looked for your mom, and she was gone. And I'm like, where is she? Where did she go? So she left,
And your mom told both of y'all.
Told both of us. She told both of us that we're going to.
So it wasn't like she told you and
No.
you told my mom. It was like
Both of us.
Both of y'all knew. Okay.
Both of us knew that we were supposed to take care of the child, and so the children, and so she left. So I asked my younger sibling to go next door and to see if she was over there, because she used to hang around with these girls next door to us. And they told her, no, she's not there. They haven't seen her all day. So I'm like, wow, man, I have to stay at this house and watch all these children and food and clean and do this, that, and the other. So, all right, so needless to say, I did. And towards the early evening, right before it was time for the, nieces and nephews to have their baths and eat dinner, here she come, your mom and my dad. Yeah, they're walking me up the stairs. And I said, where have you been? And so she said, none of your business. Now, mind you, my father is right behind her. And this is how she's coming off on me. I said, what you mean, none of my business? You heard what Mom said. Mom said that you and I were supposed to take care of the children. And so my father never said a word. They just walking up the stairs. And so I said, well, while I'm cooking, I need you to watch, the baby kids. And so she says, I'm not doing anything. I said, what you mean you're not doing anything? You heard what Mommy said. I don't care what Mommy said. I'm not doing it. Those are not my children, and I'm not doing it. So I called my mother on the job, and I told her. She said, let me speak to her. So I gave the phone to her, and she says, I don't care who you call. I'm not babysitting. These are not my children, and I'm not watching them, and blah, 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 blah. So I was like, okay. So I could see where this is going. So after she told my mother that she's not taking care of.
Oh, she told
my mother, our mother, that she's not taking care of anybody's children because they're not hers, and that's that. So she told her to give me back the phone. So I said, you see what I'm talking about? So she says, I'll handle it when I get home. Do what you can, do the best that you can. And so I hang the phone up. And then I'm wondering when my father was going to say something. I'm wondering, I'm waiting for him to cue in. And instead of him cueing in, he tells me to go upstairs. I said, go upstairs. I got to feed the children. I got to cook. She says, no, you've been picking on her. Say she walked through the front door. You go upstairs. And I said, but how are we going to cook? Go upstairs. So as I'm going upstairs, right, there's a large mirror that I have to walk in front of. I see my father in the kitchen. I see your mom coming after me with a bottle in her hand. If it had not been for that mirror, that bottle would have been in the back of my head. I turned around, and her and I got into it. My father took a broom and hit me across my back, and told me, didn't I tell you to go upstairs? Get upstairs. And I went upstairs crying because it's not my fault.
Right.
And I'm doing what my mother told me to do.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at you as being the other parent that's supposed to enforce what I'm trying to do, but instead, you taking sides.
Yeah.
So I go upstairs, and I called my uncle. And my uncle, he was such a sweetheart. He came and he told my father, which is his brother, that was wrong, that he should never hit me with anything, including his hand, because of the strength that he has. I remember him. He was a sweetheart. But that was an incident that occurred as a result of the confusion that goes on in the house.
Oh boy. So you brought up that instant with my mom. I'm curious, can you describe, like, in general, the relationship between the siblings as you all were growing up, and how did your parents either influence closeness or distance or not at all? I'm just curious what that was like.
My mother wasn't home to create the closeness, although she left instructions. That was her closeness. This is what I want you to do. This is what you want to do. We had a list of things of what we had to do. On the other hand, my father, all he brought was confusion.
So he was home more than your mom?
Pretty much.
Wow.
Pretty much. Because my mother worked the 11/7 shift, and my father was home. So, and when he was home, he was really asleep because he got up like 3 o'clock in the morning, working on the sanitation truck. He would get up early in the morning, go to work. So yeah, he was home, but he wasn't home.
Got it. Yeah.
He was home, but he wasn't home. So the siblings, we kind of raised ourselves.
I was gonna say, it sounds like you parented yourselves.
We parented ourselves. There was no one really in the house taking care of us. When we just did what we felt it necessary to do. All of us had friends.
Yeah.
So we were able to go over our friend's house. And when there wasn't anything to eat at our house, our friends helped us out and making sure that we had something to eat. I'll say my friends did. I don't know about my sisters and brothers because, I didn't really swing with them, as they say.
Yeah.
We knew the same people, but this one was friends with that one, and that one was friends with this one, and this one went to school with that one, and this one went to school with that one. So they became friends. So we were close, I would say, like around Christmas. My mother always had a dinner. Thanksgiving, my mother always had a dinner. Everybody came over and ate, but we were distant. Everyone knew who we were, in terms of being a sibling, but we weren't really that close. It was like 1 minute we're up, next minute we're down.
So then I'm curious, because grandma passed away first. She actually passed away before I was born, so I didn't even meet her. But
In 78, yeah.
yeah, what happened to the family after she died, and then what role did your dad play in the dynamic of the family after she died?
After she died, the family fell apart.
Sure.
Even more.
Yeah.
Even more. The family fell apart because she was the glue.
Yeah.
She kind of kept things together, make things happen. And she was really the head of the house. On the other hand, my father, he lived 18 years longer. And by the time she passed away, he started getting sick.
Yeah.
So he started, he stayed at my older sister's house for a while, and then he moved to my aunt's house, and then he moved down here.
Yep. Moved in with us.
But I don't know too much about, after my mother passed away, he wasn't, I have to laugh because he was angry because my mother left the insurance to my older sister to make sure that things was taken care of, because she knew with his alcoholism and his gambling addiction that things would not go the way she wanted them.
Yeah.
So she left it in the care of my sister, the oldest one. And so when he found out, he was upset. How could she do this? We've been married for X amount of years, and da-da-da-da-da. So I don't know, somehow or another, we were able to calm him down. And I said, that Mommy always wanted a wedding band. Always wanted a wedding band. Why don't you get her a wedding band?
She never had a wedding band.
She never had a wedding band. Not as long as I lived, and not long as now I don't know if she had one before.
Wow.
Before all the children came, and when they first got married, it might have had one. I never saw one, and I knew she always wanted one.
Yeah.
And so we, the siblings included, talked him into getting a wedding band. And this is before he found out that he was not the beneficiary.
I was about to say, you talked him down and into buying a wedding band? Wow.
No, he thought his name was on the policy. So he went and, even bought the flowers and everything, But then when he found out that his name was not on the insurance policy, I kid you not, he wanted the ring back. He wanted the ring back. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
I spent that money, and I'm not even the beneficiary. I'm like, really? Really? I had a brother who was in the hospital that he could have helped, but didn't. And my sister, the oldest one, took care of him while he was in the hospital pretty much.
Yeah.
But my father, he wasn't doing that. He wasn't taking care of. And my mother used to tell him, my mother used to say to him, you have to take care of your children, because if you don't, when you get to a point where you need them, they're not going to want to be around you.
Yeah.
And that happened.
Yeah.
And that really happened. But it's the strangest thing. Who did he get stuck with, more or less? Your mom.
Yeah. Yep. She had him up until literally the day he died. He died in our house. Yeah.
So that goes to show you.
Yeah.
And he went with it because he was really comfortable where he was. I mean, it wasn't like he had to move down here.
Yeah.
And then when he came down here, he was sorry that he did. He used to say that he wished that he stayed in New Jersey.
Yeah.
I'm curious, as you think about, because we're talking about like just broken families and like how it affects us. When you think about how you parented your son, how do you think your experiences maybe showed up and how you parented him?
I want to say it was good and bad. It was good that I was able to take him away from that craziness, I would say, because I didn't want him to experience that. But, you know, I tried to give him what I didn't have at home.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I'm sure it helped, but it was more, he needed more than that. And that's all I focused on.
Yeah.
If I can give him more than what I had, I felt like that was good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was good enough.
But the
it
truth is,
wasn't.
you didn't have a lot.
No, I didn't have a lot.
No.
So anything more than what I had
Yeah.
to me was good.
You're right.
It was
Yeah.
good. It was good.
Yeah.
He had his own, always had his own room.
Yeah.
Never had to share his own bed. I mean, he had his own bed. He had his TV. There's a lot of things, and materialistic things that he had. I was home. I was home. I mean, when he got out of school, I was home. I picked him up from school, take the whole bit. These are the things that I wanted my mom
Yeah.
to take interest in, or somebody. I mean, 12, I mean, come on, 11 siblings, and I can't get anyone to help me out. But that's what happened. So I remember when I graduated from 8th grade, no one was there at my graduation. Everyone's parent was there, and sister, brother, whatever, taking pictures. But there was nobody there to see me graduate.
Yeah.
And that hurt me. That really took me off, because I was like, wow, you mean to tell me I didn't even deserve anyone to be there? So I made sure, as a result, I was at every PTA.
Yeah.
I was at his football, basketball, you know, I mean, everything that I lacked at home, I made sure to cover it. You know, now any other thing, you know, him being a boy and him not having his father around, that kind of caused a problem. But yeah, and then the spankings, you know, because he would say, you know, you don't have to hit a child. You should be able to talk to us. You know, this is his mindset.
Sure.
And then I'm thinking about the broom that went across my back. And I'm thinking about how my mother had me, because at one point she, you know, what goes on in the house stays in the house. And she was scared to let anyone know about what was going on in the house, or my father, what was going on in the house. I don't even think my father knew that I was living in the house when I was pregnant. But my father didn't even realize I was pregnant until the day that I was having the baby, when I went in labor. But going back, it's the same thing with what was going on in the house. So when I told my mother that my oldest sister wasn't home, told my father that she hadn't came home. that started a whole big ruckus in the house. And so my sister told my mom that I was upstairs telling my dad that my sister hadn't been home all night. And my mother called me downstairs, and she had this sweet voice. She had this real sweet voice. And she called me out and she said, Brenda, come downstairs. So I come downstairs thinking, you know, everything was good. Next thing I know, I'm up in the corner like this. because I'm like, what did I do? What did I do? Don't you tell your dad nothing. Don't you tell him any.
Grandma did that?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
Because the oldest one became her closest friend. And she was already hurt that she had actually eloped.
Oh,
And
okay.
we didn't know. I didn't know. I was sick.
She said, Brenda,
Yeah,
come here,
come
please.
all nice and sweet, and I'm coming downstairs. And next thing I know, it was like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh,
I'm like,
boy.
so I was like in the corner, and I was like, what did I do? She said, don't you tell your dad anything. Not a thing. And I was like, I didn't know. I'm only maybe 8 then. But that's what we had to do to keep friction down. What goes on in the house stays in the house, no matter what. You know, so that's how we had to live. Even when we went outside to play with our friends, everyone thought that we had the best family.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And I think that's the part that so many people struggle with is I know in many broken families, everyone thinks the family's perfect. Everyone's like, wow, there's such a beautiful family. Oh man, just look at how he loves his wife. And oh, look at the children. They're just so well behaved. And then on the inside of the family, there's so much pain and so much hurt and so much trauma. Like even, you know, I can't remember if I shared this in an episode, but you know, when I started to share my story, people in our family, not many people, but some people in our family would come at me and be like, how could you talk about your mom this way? She's sacrificed so much for you. She's done this. And I'm just like, you have no idea what went on behind those closed doors. And you're basically saying I'm wrong for sharing what happened instead of being like, hey, did this happen? Like, what's going on? And I think that's something that hurts is when people don't, like, they just look at the mirage of it all. Or they're like, oh, they're such a great family. And then here you are literally having to fight for your life.
Yeah, pretty much. When I, you know, just thinking about all of it and not telling anybody what we were going through outside the house, I remember not long ago, my girlfriend thought that I had the best family.
Wow.
Because I had both mother and father living in the household.
Yeah.
But she didn't know what I was going through.
Yeah.
With that mother and father. I mean, not so much my mother, because my mother tried. She really, really, she really tried to make sure that we all stayed together, make sure that all the kids, matter of fact, she even told me at, I was 11, when I was, when my nephew, who was born back then, called me auntie. He was the one who made me auntie. He was the first next to the next generation. And when I say that really made me feel good to be auntie, oh my goodness, I wanted to be auntie. Oh, I thought that was so special, auntie. And until more came and more came. And I'm like, wait a minute. You know, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But then when I had to watch them, I used to sometimes get frustrated because I had parties. I wanted to go to the party. I wanted to go out with my girlfriend. And my mother would tell me, those are your nieces and nephews, and you're going to take care of them.
Which actually, it brings me to my next question. And we only have like a couple left, but I think this is important. You moved to Florida. So funny enough, so, you know, family up north, everybody's up in New Jersey. Everyone migrates down to one city in Florida. And it's so funny to me because I've often said, for a family that doesn't talk to each other, there are tens of thousands of cities that everybody could have moved to. Everybody moved from one city where we're not talking to each other to another city we're not talking to each other. But you
specifically moved with the goal of trying to build relationships with your siblings and nieces and nephews. Why did you do that? And like, what was your experience?
I think that was the mother in me.
Mm.
I'm talking about my mother and me.
Mm. Great.
Because I know that what my mother would have wanted, and that was for us to be close.
Yeah.
Because that's what she fought so hard, and worked so hard to do. That I know that she's not happy.
Yeah.
She would not be happy with us being so far apart from one another. And even through the chaos that's going on, even with right now, she would not be happy.
Yeah.
I came down here after my oldest sister told me not to, because I asked her back in 2004, beginning of 2004, if she wanted to move down here. And she told me, no. So I said, but why? I said, you have this one living down here, you have that one down here. I said, we could be a family, we can go to the beach. I'm thinking all the sunshine.
Cookouts and
I'm thinking about having that good old time that we used to have. Because at one point when we started getting older and having children, we used to take the children up to Anthony Wayne Pool in New York State and, do things like that, barbecuing. There was a moment. There was a moment when that happened. And so I wanted that moment.
Yeah.
Especially of being around the beaches, and there's so many things that you could do. So I always kind of hoped that when I retired from work, that this is something that I would be able to do, move down here and be around family.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because that's something that I wanted.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I'm like, I want that family that my mother wanted back.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I moved down here. But if I had listened to my older sister, she would have said, they're not getting along down there. I'm like, they're not. Why? What are you talking about? Because I didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
They wasn't bringing that to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't hear it. I didn't know anything. So there I am in Jersey, and having my older sister tell me, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
And I said, but why? So he said, they're not even talking. This one's not talking to that one. That one's not talking to this one. I was like, really? So I then realized what was causing her health to decline, because they were giving everything to her, being the oldest. And it was a bad thing. Yeah. And so I told her, I said, well, all right, well, I guess we won't move to Florida.
Yeah.
So it was only after she had died in 2004 that I started drumming up that thought, I want to move to Florida. I want to move to Florida. I want to see what it looks like. I want to see what it feels like, going down to the beach at Christmas. Mm-hmm. These are the things that I imagine. So
and being with family.
Yeah. My family, definitely, because there were so many of them. Yeah. But I thought that, and this is what happened too, it really happened this way. You had two sisters already here. Mm-hmm. You had a third sister getting ready, my sister, getting ready to move. Mm-hmm. Then you had another sister that said, well, if y'all moving down there, I'm gonna move too. Yeah. So finally, we had all these sisters that's going to be in one state. But don't you know, Florida's not big enough? Florida was not big enough for 5 sisters. So this one started fussing with this one, she moved. This one started fussing with that one, they moved. Yeah. So here I am. Yeah. And I had to move, because I didn't see any closeness coming about it. It was like, it triggered something. We're still not speaking.
And I think, so I have just 2 more questions, but one of them is, when did you know you had done all you can? Because I think sometimes, and we've talked about this, like, people can be made to feel like you have to keep trying, no matter what happens. Keep trying, no matter what they say, no matter what they do, keep trying. And I remember when you first kind of came back into my life, and you were even talking about my mom, and then I was just like, I'm done. Like I've done everything I can. And people would come to me and be like, you can't give up on your mom. And you can't. They would, and I was just like, okay, just wait and see. But I'm curious, when did you know I've done all I can? I need to focus on my life.
Hmm. When everything that I tried to do was more of a dream than a reality, um, it was time. Believe it or not, I tried up until last year, November. I tried, because when I say I tried, I mean, yeah, we would argue, but then we get back.
Yeah.
We argue, we get back, and we argue, we
Yeah.
get back. But this particular time, it was like, that's it.
One point I want to make though, before you even finish that, is would there ever be an apology?
No.
And see, I think
No.
that is so important. Like what I've seen happen, of course, in our family, but what I see happen even in other situations is an offense will happen and people will just keep on moving, sweep it under the rug. But what happens is you have this rug that is as tall as a mountain of things that have been swept under it. There's been no apology, there's been no repentance, there's been no acknowledgement. And so you just end up on this treadmill where the offense happens over and over and over.
That's right.
And at some point, it's like, wait a minute, nobody's actually sorry that this is happening. You have to start taking care of yourself. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to interject that.
No,
'cause
but you're
no
right.
apology has ever been made.
No apology has by the time I got down here, believe it or not, there were so many lies being told about me down here that was floating in the air that I didn't even know anything about.
Yeah.
And then next thing I know, this one is coming up to me. Did you ever do this? I'm like, what? No. What? Who told you that?
Where'd that even come from?
Yeah. And then this one. Did you do this? And if you just did this, that, and the other, then maybe we can get past this. But I didn't do this.
that. Like what?
So exactly. And yet, like you said, no apology.
No.
We just move on.
Just keep on moving on.
Just keep on moving on. And I'm like, I can't believe that you could say something, and that bothers me.
Yeah.
That you could say something about somebody that is so untrue and not even attempt to make amends or apologize for anything.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm just tired. I'm tired of all this backbiting and this, he said, she said, and it reminded me of the story of Abraham. And when God told Abraham to leave and don't take no one with you,
Yep.
That's what gave me comfort of knowing that it just wasn't meant for me to not to take anyone with me.
Yeah.
I'm at times I will, if the Spirit leads, I will call.
Yeah.
I will make a phone call, or I'll text and say, just thinking about you. I hope everything is well. Or I'm praying for you. Or if I hear that somebody needs something, I may step in and try to help. But as far as me running after them, no.
I think I shared this with you, a revelation God gave me some years ago, which was we put so much emphasis on forgiveness. And forgiveness is obviously important. It is biblical. We need to forgive our offenders. That is true. At the same time, a healthy relationship requires two sides of the same coin. On one side is forgiveness, which is, hey, you hurt me. I forgive you because I want to be in relationship with you. On the other side of the coin, the one that we do not talk about, is repentance. In order for us to have a healthy relationship, there has to be repentance by the person who offended the person. It's a recognition that I hurt you. I am sorry. I should have never done that. And I'm going to commit to never doing that again. That's what's required for a healthy relationship. And when God gave me that revelation, it set me free because I had been feeling so much guilt from people. My mom would have strangers call me. She would give them my number. have them call me and berate me. I can't believe you aren't talking to your mom. How could you do that? She's been nothing but good to you. And this, and people, they didn't know me at all. And I realized I would feel so guilty. And I realized, yes, I can absolutely forgive her, but we cannot be in a healthy relationship in the absence of repentance.
Mhm.
The Bible said, Jesus said, repent for the kingdom of God is at hand. He didn't say forgive
Mhm.
for the kingdom of God is at hand. He said repent, because repentance requires humility, and you cannot have healthy relationships, marital, family, friendship, anything, in the absence of humility. And so what I would love for you to do as we're kind of rounding this out is I would love for you to speak to a person who's watching this now and they're feeling so much guilt about, man, I gotta try to make it work. They're the one person trying to make it work and they're just feeling so much guilt about it. What would you say to them out of what you've learned and what you've been through in navigating all this?
There is a scripture where Jesus says, if I stand at the door knocking, if anyone hears my voice and let me in, I will come in and sup with you. If Jesus can stand at a door knocking and waiting for that person to open it, then so can you, or so can I.
Yeah.
You can't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
Change, the serenity prayer helps me out a lot. God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yes.
I spent from 2005 when I moved down here up until last year, all those years trying to make something happen. You have to let go, let God. You have to, it's just a thing. If it's meant, it will happen. If it's not, it's not. Because you can waste a lot of precious time helping somebody else that actually wants to help, that really wants to help, and they're benefited by your help, than trying to go back and bring somebody up that don't want it.
Yeah.
That don't want it.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't want change. I want change. I want us to love on each other and be that family that we used to have when mom was alive. I want that. But we all was raised under that roof.
Yeah.
And some people took it differently than others. For me, there were things that I had to do to make sure that my son was taken care of, and I didn't want to spend a whole lot of unnecessary time. Even he said, don't move to Florida. He didn't want me to move down here because he knew that I would get sidetracked more or less. But even with that, I came anyhow.
Yeah.
So it's not like I didn't think that we could have a relationship. It takes two.
Yeah.
It takes two. And if they're not willing, you just have to let it go.
Yeah.
Do you. Spend the time doing you. Eventually, you'll have one or two or some come around. Those who come around, you love them.
Yeah.
Those who don't, you leave them where they are. That's where they want to be. That's where they want to be.
Yeah. Well, I want to say as we close, and I've said this to you before, but I want to say it in front of everybody watching, that I am so grateful for you. I'm grateful for your sincerity. I'm grateful for how you have been there. I mean, I think about from the moment TJ was born. I mean, you were in my life before then, but from the moment he was born, you have been there. Even when my own mom left, came one day and left, never came back, you've been there. And you've just always been consistent and you've always been encouraging. And for everybody who, for whatever reason, has spread whatever lie they want to spread about you, they'll be okay. Because at the end of the day, the truth is you are a woman after God's own heart. You have been truly a mother to me. And I appreciate you for stepping in. I really do. I think so much I've learned from you is character, resilience, responsibility. I mean, you just texted me the other day about my son with his packing suitcase, stinking shoes. Listen, my aunt, listen, she'll tell me, it's like, what's going on? What is happening here? I appreciate that. I appreciate that because it comes from a place of love and care. And I feel bad for the family not having that relationship with you because it's been such a blessing for me. And so I thank you. I thank you for being that. Despite all that you had to navigate, you have been such a blessing to me and I love you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate it because, like I said, you're one of the few that let me in. You let me in. And like I said, if you let me in, I'll come and I will sup with you.
And you have supped.
And I've supped. But like my mom said, those are your nieces and nephews, and you're going to take care of them. Well, I thank God that I'm able to continue doing what she instructed me to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I feel about it all. And again, I would even do more, but I'm not chasing. I'm not. I love all my nieces and nephews. There's no big eyes, little U's.
Yeah.
No matter what they may think. The only reason why I want to say that you and I are as close as we are is because you let me in. I'll be this way with anybody who let me in.
Yeah.
You know, but if you don't,
Well, hey, their loss is my
Look,
gain.
next.
So I get all the love. That's fine. That's fine. Stay away, please. I'm gonna be greedy with you.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this and for sharing your story and for all the people who will be blessed by seeing themselves in your story.